Here's the question. How do you make the impossible possible? Simple. Remove the I am, the ego. Now, how do you step into that newfound possibility? With a series of small intentional steps. Never forget, the greatest among us started from humble beginnings. But to truly unlock your potential, realize you're here for something greater. If you're yearning for more than just a good life, let's take that small step together to reach greatness. Welcome to the Greatness from Small Beginnings podcast, where we're talking to those who have gone from mediocrity to motivated, overlooked to overachieving, forgettable to unforgettable. Are you ready? Let's go. I appreciate you coming on. For all of you who don't know him, this is Eduardo Norell.
Thank you.
I will reveal something special about our relationship later on in the conversation, but I've heard glimpses of your story over the last few years that I've known you, and I would like you to dig in a little on this being the Greatness from Small Beginnings podcast. Greatness is also something that we all aim for, and those that are the greatest around us, they seem like they're not done. Right? They seem like there's more to go, which I believe is probably the same for both of us. Well, we've probably accomplished some levels, right, of greatness, what we pictured at least years ago. And now we know that, wow, that isn't actually great. It's maybe good, right? But there's more to go. So start as far back as you want, but where you were born, the difference between you and most of your, my listeners, it's going to be a stark difference. So I'd like you to start way back and then give the abridged version, because this could take a while, right?
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for having me over here. And yes, it is a topic. It's a really kind of like a cool topic to talk about. To start from the origins, because I just came from another country. I just came from an island in the Caribbean, which is the biggest one. It's Cuba. So coming from the tropical island of Cuba to the United States, to the Pacific Northwest, they're opposite on every extent of the word. But it's been an awesome journey. So my life in Cuba was dictated in a big sense, by the government. They plan all the activities that you do from you are born, so you have to go to school. It is enforced. You have to go to school. So your parents go. They get in trouble by not taking you to school, because that's the way that they have control. They control you and they brainwash you. So everybody have to go through the system. So that's the only...
The system.
The system, yes. Yeah, and then it's, I just grew up, going to, to the school. It's a big deal having good credits, because that's the only way that that you can get into the next level. So if you don't get good credits, you don't go to the next level.
So kind of like good grades,
good grades.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to get good grades on school. Otherwise, you don't get to the next level. Okay. And if you don't get to the next level, there is no other chance. So, for example, here that we have, like a private initiative, you can open your own business. If your family have a business, you can say, well, I'm not going to school. I'm going to just work on my dad's business. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. In Cuba, you don't have that luxury, because all the jobs are owned by the government. So if you have to, eventually you will have to grow up and work for the government.
In one way or another.
Okay. So now, lately, they've been doing some openings, because they are forced to do some openings because they have no money, They have no money, so they need people to do something by on themselves. But I remember growing up in Cuba, for example, there is no landscape companies, there is no painting companies, there is no construction companies, There is no paving companies.
Wow.
Why? Because there is not private companies. It's all owned by the government. So the government have some enterprises to do all that kind of stuff. But all the the people who that are on top of on the leadership positions and things like that, they work for the government and they respond to the government and they have to say things that that is being approved by the government. And then if you don't match the politics, you're out.
What's that mean to be out?
Be out is you get they fire you from the company, from the enterprise. But if they fire you and all the companies have the same owner, where are you going to get another job?
Yeah. So essentially it means you don't eat.
You don't eat.
Or you eat.
So then you have to start getting creative.
Okay.
You have to start getting creative and then or doing something on the black market or start doing other things or just trying to to having a friend that have some influence so they can just kind of like forget that what happens in the other one and let's just give you another opportunity because of there is a friend connection.
Okay. So there's the context of what you're living in. And then somehow between that context and your teenage years, I assume you started to see the light and then America became a possibility. At what point? And then how'd that work out?
Yeah, growing up, actually, because of the indoctrination, I was looking forward to serve that government the best I could. I wanted to write for the government. I wanted to, they kind of like inject, they impregnate your brain with that proud nationalism that you have to defend that system no matter what. And your leader now, instead of being led by God or by like a really a figure of high standards, now your leader is Fidel Castro, the leader of the revolution. So now you see that leader, that's your goal. I just want to be approved by that system. So, and growing up, I was fighting for that. I was, it creates a very competitive mindset. You don't want to lose on anything because every time that you lose something, it's like a step down. So, yeah, and you don't have that luxury because, for example, if you don't get into, you go to high school and then after high school, you're supposed to get into the university. If you don't get into the university, you're done. Because it's not like like in 10 years, I'm going to get my, my studies. I'm going to get my financials together. I'm going to pay for school. No, that doesn't exist. So you have to be inside of the system. And then the system reward those politically correct all the time. If you are not politically correct and aligned with the, the line of thinking, you're out. Even if you are a good student. You can be the best student, but if you're not aligned politically, you're out of the system. So then if you're out, for example, I'm going to give you just one of the examples. I got, two colleagues of mine that they were expelled because because of religious views of the world. So being religious, it was considered a no. You don't talk about that here. And I'm going to give you just an anecdote really quick. So when I was on first grade, I remember having a teacher. Her name was Maria. Mm-hmm. And she took us out on the break. She said, okay, kids, let's go out, for a recess. And I want you to pay attention to what you guys are seeing outside. So when you come back, you will tell me, and I will start writing on the chalkboard, on the big board on the wall. And that's what we did. So we just went out playing, and then when we came back, she started writing. She was just with her back to the students and just writing. Okay, tell me, and I'm gonna start writing. So everybody started, hey, I saw the clouds. Oh, good, clouds. and then she started accumulating everything that everybody saw: clouds, oh, grass and tree. Oh, I saw a bird. I saw a leaf. I saw. When she filled up the entire chalkboard, then she said, "That's it. Anything else?" And kids stop being creative, and I said, "No, silence." And then she looked back to us and says, "Okay, does anybody saw God?" No, no. So if you don't see God, it's because God doesn't exist. From this point on, it's prohibited to talk about God. You don't mention God in this classroom. And that's the majority of the schools. I will say, 100% of schools, they're not allowed to talk about God in the school. Not at all. Absolutely not. So that creates, so for example, I grew up being an atheist because that was the way of thinking. Now, everything that they teach you is to separate, God from your life. And but then going to my teenage years, it was then I started kind of like asking myself a bunch of questions, and then just getting into those doubts that goes to your mind, because one thing is what they teach you, and the other thing is the reality. So when reality kicks in, then you start kind of like start wondering and start asking yourself questions, and kind of like doubting, some of those teachings that comes into your life, that is shaping the way that you act, the way that you respond to things in life, to events in life. So yeah, at that point, I start kind of like stopping and question. I start questioning everything now. So that opens up, but it opens up when I got into university. The university exposed me to other information. For example, students, foreign students, so students from other countries that went into Cuba, went into Havana, to study, graphic design. And I remember being with one guy that was from Dominican Republic. And the guy was saying, "No, my country, we don't do that. No, 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 no. My country's different. So we do this and that." So it's kind of like what? What? Can you tell me more about that? And then talking about God, yeah, no, no, yeah, no. And then it's kind of like all that rush of information kind of like shake you. And you start like saying, "No, wait. I just need to go back to the beginning and see what is, what is wrong with this picture." And then you start discovering things. When you start discovering things, it makes you start kind of like so if this was wrong, what else?
Yeah, that's the way that question always goes, isn't it?
If this was wrong and I've been taught this for so many years, so what else? So then you start kind of like questioning now everything.
Yeah.
Of course, there were good things too. It taught me discipline. It gave me the competitive mindset that, you don't. And then the other thing is that you don't take anything for granted. You need to fight for it. It's not like, I was born here in the United States and we have cold water and hot water. No, we didn't have that luxury. So being a teenager just showed me a bunch of questions that now I need to be answered. And I started looking for the truth on my own. So that kind of like it put me in a different position. So now it is a challenge for me. Now it is a challenge. So if this was wrong, now what is the truth?
So at what point did you start taking action? Because you're here, so you had to take action.
Yeah, I had to take action. So it all started, when I was, like a 20, 21, when I was kind of like moving towards and being a little bit more reactive to things, and then a little bit more vocal, but without losing perspective, because it cost me my freedom. So I remember, when, coming back to my dad and asking him, tough questions about, what happened, because you start reading. Now you start reading the books. Now you start getting access to other information from other countries. And then I used to go back to my dad and say, hey, that's not right. That was not true. Yeah, but you don't say that. We don't say that in public. Say, well, but it's not true. Yeah, but we don't say that in public because it can cost you your career and it can cost you this. So then you start kind of like always working out of fear. Something can happen to you. And then you lose that, not only your freedom, but you lose the opportunity to be creative. Opportunity to be honest, to be transparent. Now you start looking for, just living a fake life because you need to believe one thing inside and then just project another one because you need to look good. For those people, otherwise you won't make it. You won't be successful. So when I was like a 2021, I kind of like start making some actions. At that point, I said, you know what? I cannot continue living this fake life for the rest of my life. There is a point, when a man have to make a decision. If you continue the path of the losers or you risk everything to be successful and to find the truth. So that is a point, that is like the apex. You've been climbing that mountain for so long, and now you are on the apex, and you know that something's going to happen, and it's going to be downhill. But you have to take the risk. Climbing that mountain is just half the way. You have to go back, and you have to go back the best way you can. And then I start kind of like getting information about how can I get out of this enormous prison, because I cannot live here. This is not the place for me. So what can I do? So I start contacting, other, in secret. Yeah, you have to be, under the table. You cannot be exposed because now they consider you a traitor, and that will cost you jail time. So I started searching for all kinds of opportunities. So how can I actually? When I got into the Graphic Design Institute, where I just got my degree from, so there was 2 classes. So the first 2 years is basic for everybody. Everybody that goes into the career goes to the same 2 years. But then after that, the other 3 years, you're gonna specialize. But so there was the graphic design part of the business, then interior design, fashion design, but there was one that was machinery design. The machinery design, it was all about automobiles. Fidel Castro wanted to build, like a small automobiles in Cuba. They were trying to negotiate with the Russians, with the Soviets at the time. But that one was the only of the specialties that you have to go for 6 months to East Germany at the time, before the, yeah. So for me, that was my path to get out of the country.
Okay.
Because you cannot go and buy a ticket and fly out of the country. It was prohibited. That was illegal. You cannot leave the country. So for me, that was my way out. So then I enrolled into that specialty, machinery design, with that purpose. So that's when you asking me about, hey, what there was a point that you make action. I said, well, when I was 21, I said, yeah, this is it. I want to go and I want to do that, because that way, if I get out of the country, I won't come back. But then that one, the whole collapse of the Soviet Union came down at 1989. So all my plans went to the sewer system. And so then I have to reinvent myself again. And there was another opportunity. And there was like a big, back in 1994, there was a big revolt in Cuba, and the people were, just fed up of all the government things. And so they just went to the streets and started, kind of like talking and just without fear, because this is it. We didn't have food on the table, with no freedoms, no food, no water, no electricity, and it was kind of like a crunching down into the families, and the people just got fed up and just went to the streets. And then Fidel Castro just opened up and said, "Okay, you want to leave? Just go." And that happens, in 1994, when a big exodus in Cuba. At that point, just to avoid, because there were thousands of people dying and crossing the water, between Cuba and Florida, thousands of people dying. So just like a humanitarian agreement to avoid that. So United States agreed to provide, some refuge, for people, for Cuban people. So one of them was if you can just go into a raft to the sea, and they catch you alive, so you can apply for for a refuge here in the States. But the other one was to write a letter, with all your information, kind of like fill up a form, and send it to the United States Embassy in Havana. So it was not an embassy; it was an interest section, because there was not diplomatic relationships.
Right.
But then we did it. I did that, and
wait, you said we? Who's we?
My wife and I.
So you were married.
Oh,
so
yes.
You had a lot at stake. You had more at stake than just you getting out of the country.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's an important part.
That's right. Yeah. My wife and I, because in the beginning, when I started with all these mental, breakdowns of this is wrong, and also she was also educated in the same system, so she was always trying to protect my, she wanted me to be next to her, not in prison.
Yeah, she wanted to protect your future, essentially.
And then for me that was the first thing. It was trying to open her eyes into what I'm seeing now. So and that came as a challenge too, because she's a smart woman too. And but then me talking and doing things, but then eventually, I was. We wrote that letter, never got any news about it, and the whole thing closed, and we were kind of like living. And then she got pregnant with my first daughter, Melanie, and but all of a sudden, back in 1998, the government decided to reopen that. They call it it's like a lottery.
Okay.
It's random. They pick random, and they reopened that because of another tense relationships, with both countries. And I was granted, that was picked as one of those random things, the lottery. But that, what it does is give you an opportunity to go for an interview with the United States representative.
Right.
And then they will evaluate, if you have no crimes or no things, or if you're not going to be a burden for the States. You're not going to come here, with a bunch of loaded things,
Yeah.
And so I went for an interview, and they saw that, we both, graduated from the university. And then they said, well, yeah, this guy, they will make it on the States.
After that interview, how long did it take?
It took me 6 months.
So
after the interview, that was April 17, 1998. I will never forget those dates, because that gave me the freedom that I was dreaming about. So April 17, 1998, I was in an interview, and I was granted a visa to enter the United States. After that point, I just arrived into the United States on July 18.
So 3 months.
Of the same years, 3 months.
3 months. Wow. Good. So when you landed here, let's talk about the struggles, your biggest challenges. You'd been through a lot.
Yes.
you'd suffered. Part of it, you didn't even know you were suffering. You just thought it was normal. I assume that was the case.
Yes.
And so doing hard work, doing playing the hard mental game, not necessarily foreign to you at that point. The competition, the climbing the ladder,
Yes.
was normal. So you came here. What were the things? I've written some down. Okay, you're an immigrant. You're a Cuban. Was that in particular a hurdle to overcome? Was there prejudice? Obviously, language was an issue. Did you know English? I mean, you had some hurdles, and there's probably more. Describe that time for me.
Well, actually, because I went to the university, so we have some lessons in English, and I thought in my primitive mind that I knew anything about English, because in Cuba was, of course, having that relationship with the Soviets, Russian was a big deal. But because I was in a school, it was a boarding school. It was a selected school for kids, with good grades. So we got English. So, but the English was, Tom is a boy, Mary is a girl. So here is a pencil. How you, and then the old English like, hey, how did you do? And that kind of like a. So I came here thinking that I was going to be flying. I just study English, right? Just to realize that I knew nothing. And that is like hitting a wall. Because then you face not only the language barrier, but the prejudice of people assuming that because I don't speak the language, I'm retarded in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, if this guy doesn't speak English, he know nothing. So for me, it was tough because I have so much information inside of me that I want to, I just came to this country admiring the freedom that it gives me. But now these little things start kind of like making me wonder and say, why? Why are you treating me, like that? So people start kind of like reacting when you start speaking in Spanish with other people. And now I get it. I understand why some people, they react that way. But for me, was a wall. For me, was a wall. So then I say, well, the only way that I can climb that wall is through the language. I need to learn the language. So it's not like, I'm here and I'm going to make my bubble like many of us immigrants we do. So we just get into a bubble because this country also give me that freedom. I can build a bubble.
Mm-hmm.
It's the countries, the opportunities here are so big that even I can build my own bubble. But for me, it was not an option because my competitive mind just, I said, no. I want to go to another level. I want to go to that goal that I have in mind. So I want to be successful. I want to work for someone else, and I want to climb the ladder of the corporate structure. Mm-hmm. That was because that's what I grew up with. In Cuba, there is no business, so I have no idea about business. So I in my mind, I'm not dreaming about having my own business, because that's not in my DNA. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was working for a company, performing, because that was what I was trained for, performing as best as I can so I can start climbing.
And somehow you knew ladder. That staying in the bubble doesn't get you there.
Staying in the bubble doesn't get me there because I need to interact now. Okay. I need to be competitive. Okay. I need to be seen. So I cannot stay in the bubble for too long. So that forced me to start kind of like stepping back a little bit and say, well, okay, so I need to start from the basis.
Okay, so how'd you learn English?
Oh, that was with my daughters. And, I started working for a company, for a graphic design studio. I remember knocking at their doors. I knocked so many doors, and people...
Literally, you went.
Yeah, literally, little knocking at doors. I remember going to a graphic design studio by Burnside, and just close to downtown. And I just knock at the door because I saw graphic design and something. And so the guy opened the door, and I say, "Oh, me, me graphic design, you for me, you graphic." And the guy looked at me, and he puts his finger out like that, and he says, pointing the door, "Can you read?" I said, "Me read? Design?" Said, "Look here." And the door said, it says no solicitors. And I said, "Well, I'm not soliciting anything. I'm just here. Me graphic, me design." And the guy just shut the door. And I wasn't, why is he shutting that door? Of course, I didn't know what not solicitor means, not knowing the language. So, but then, I decided, because the Cuban government, when I was leaving the country at the airport, they took out from me all the graphics works that I did for the government, because it says, no, that's a national patrimony. You owe nothing here. So either, or if you want to get out, you leave this here. So I have to leave behind all the things that I can show prove
your resume.
my resume. Yeah. So I can show to prove that, hey, I know how to do a few things. So then I have to start recreating from memory all those designs that I did. Not all, but some of the, the most appealing one. So with that, I knock another door that didn't say solicitor, not solicitor.
Yeah, check that out first.
I checked that out. And then I knock at that door, and they open the door, and I show that to them, and they say, "What is this?" I couldn't explain. My English was so limited. That was back in 1999.
Okay.
And I was here, at the time I was living here for almost a year. But, we learned a few things just to understand. The problem was not to say hi. Yeah, that's the easy part. Hi, hello. Hey, what's your name? Oh, my name is Eduardo. The problem is when they start asking you questions after that. Blank.
Yeah.
And then because I don't look Latino, for me was another challenge. Because if you're Latino and they hear your accent and the guy doesn't, is Latino, doesn't speak the language. But for me, being I don't look Latino at all, because of my ancestors coming from different areas in the world. For me was like I say, "No, I don't speak English." And I say, "What? No English? Come on." I say, "No, I don't speak English." And the guy said, "Well, if you don't want to talk to me, that's okay, but you don't have to find an excuse." Then when I start talking, they say, "Oh, yeah, you're right. You don't speak English." Yeah.
So you're here a year and you're still having this issue because you can't speak of the job you want.
Yeah. I cannot explain my skills. And
so, there's a time though when something tripped, like you got a job, somebody gave you a chance. What was that?
On that job that I knocked at the door, I showed them
one.
That's the one. So I opened the samples, and the guy was looking at it. Wow, this is amazing. You did all of that? Yeah. Yeah. For me, everything, all the answer was yes, yes, yes. And sometimes the answer should be no, and they say yes. I say, "Oh, no. So I didn't know what they were talking about. Okay. But then, he says, "You know what? Okay, I know that you have your limitation with the language, but I want you here because of your skills. I'm gonna train you. I'm gonna teach you." So his wife came every day to the studio and sat next to me. And while I was working, she was talking to me in English, and I have to respond. And then when I say something wrong, and she said, "No, we don't say it like that." I remember having a big thing about yogurt.
Yogurt?
Yogurt. Because I said yogurt.
Who ever has a big thing about yogurt?
Yogurt, yeah. But she helped me a lot. She helped me.
That is so good.
with the language, and then having my daughters going to school and coming back and trying to explain something that they learn in English and trying to explain to me in Spanish. So I watch cartoons with them together. So I learned a lot from OPV. I remember, OPV, was a. And then I learned a lot by watching TV, but having the mindset that I need to learn this language. And then I have a good friend of mine, Roger Rivero, and he said, turn everything that talks to you in Spanish, turn it off. You need to learn English. So on your car, stop music. Just start listening to radio talk shows that were very popular at the time. Talk shows. So I learned a lot. So when I remember just one day just driving on I-84 and listening, for the first time, the Billie Jean Michael Jackson song. The song, from just listening what it really says, the song, because in Cuba we just mimic the language, but we don't know what it says, right? But for me, that was a big I'm learning, because now I understand what it's saying. And the Billie Jean, I had a totally different idea of the song, but just by listening the lyrics now in a song, for me that was like a spark of yes, I can do this. So that gave me the motivation to just go deeper now.
I was going to ask how you stay motivated. It's the competition, the competitive spirit that kept you motivated. It sounded like. Was there more to it than that? Kids?
Yeah, of course. And then I think coming from a different environment, where you have nothing. Now, what can scare me most than coming back to Cuba? So nothing can scare me more than coming back to the loss of my freedom and all the opportunities that I have here.
So you weren't scared of having nothing?
No, that was not that's because I came with nothing.
Okay.
So for me, having nothing it was not a scare. So that was not my motivation. My motivation is that I can do better. I can do better because this country allows me give me the set, the frame, so what I can start building up. The foundation is here. So if I have this opportunity and all my friends and colleagues back in Cuba, they don't, I cannot waste it. I cannot waste, this gift that I have received.
Gift. I love that. Awesome.
Yeah, and that's what kept me motivated. But then having not only one daughter, but having another one, just kind of set the whole thing to pull together with my wife that was always supportive of my endeavors, because at some point, the company that I was working, that I was really happy, just having dream about, climbing up the ladder of corporate America, they one of the sudden they said, no, we're closing the business. They start, with the boom of the internet back in 2001. Oh, internet, and they start hiring a bunch of programmers, to do to do websites and stuff, and they couldn't afford to to pay, and so they have to close the business and declare bankruptcy. So I was left out, and like a deer on the spotlights. What? Because I just came to work, and the guy said, "No, yeah,
And how long? Less than a year?
Yeah, it was like I was working there for almost 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so it allows me to learn, and but then I was kind of like that was a shock, because everything was working as planned. Right now I'm doing, but now you are on your own. Just go to an office and let's see if they can give you some unemployment benefits or something. And so yeah, I was without a job for 6 months.
And then did you get another job, or did you start a business?
I started knocking doors again.
Okay.
I started knocking doors. I went to a dealership, a car dealership.
Okay.
and to sell them some business cards. So, hey, I can design every business that I do. The guy said, actually, by talking to the guy, and he kind of like looked at me and said, you know what, with your charisma, with your Spanish, you can sell a lot of cars. you can sell,
Sets you a little different direction.
yes, you can sell a lot of cars. You're gonna make way more money. I'm gonna do the business card with you, but you're gonna make way more money by selling cars than than doing a business card. So how much are the business cards? So we just got into the deal, and he says, come tomorrow. I'm gonna train you. So yeah. I just came next day, and I was and he said, yeah, here is a book of sales of I don't know. It was like that. It says, just read that. I'll be back. I said, read that. Most of the stuff that I was reading there, I couldn't understand. But the guy came and said, okay, yeah. He took me to the door and said, hey guys, this is the new guy. So whatever you see a car, you call up, and that's your car. You go and talk to them and bring it inside. And if they need a financing, you can start filling up the forms. And if they need to see a car, just let your manager know that they need to see a car, and he will tell you what to do. That was the training. So I did that for 3 months. And those 3 months, actually, I make good money on those 3 months. Of course, I was being honest with my customers.
Mm-hmm.
That's not proper in that environment.
Might be a little bit of a problem.
That is a problem. So I was not making the money that I should be making when compared with other sales on the team. So that was creating a problem, because I cannot lie to the people to sell them a product that I know that they cannot afford. I can't. It's about values.
Mm-hmm.
It's about morals. So I couldn't lie to them, and I told them, now my manager is gonna come, and they're gonna ask you to do this and that. Don't do it. Tell them that you are gonna be allowed to pay this amount, and that's it. If not, walk away, because they're gonna rip you off. But that gave me, referrals, and that's why I was doing so good. But the environment, I didn't like it. I don't like when I'm forced to lie, when I'm forced to live and do something that is not on my values as a person. So I don't like that. So I just quit. I said, no, that's it. I'm not gonna go back. They offer me everything because they saw the potential. They see if we just get this guy to lie or to do things, he's gonna make us a lot of money. They offer me base salary with 18-20% commissions on top of that. Oh. And I says, no, that's it. No. And then I start knocking doors again on businesses, but now with a different goal. Now it's I just went to business. I say, can I have your business card? They gave me the business card. I went back home, redesigned the card, came next day with the business card redesigned, and showed to them with prices, just to avoid talking. Here it is. I say, whoa, so that's a business card. So you designed that? Yeah, I did that. Oh, so you even have prices in here? Oh, okay. I can do that. Yeah. Actually, I don't need just one set. I just need, like 4 sets. We're 4 people here. Can you do that? Yeah, of course. Then I start doing business cards, and they say, hey, you do also flyers? Oh, you do door hangers too? Mm-hmm. Oh, so you do okay. So then I start kind of like getting, and then they say, oh, I have my cousin or my neighbor also have a business. I'm gonna refer you to those businesses. And then then I start growing into another avenue in my life.
Yeah. So then you do some business cards. It's not an official business yet.
Yeah, not at all.
Just to feed the kids,
feed the kids, because I was unemployed.
Yeah. And so when did it become an official business? And Then let's transition to where you did everything, anything for a buck, basically.
Yes.
That's part of my journey too. There was lots of years where it was anything for a buck. So when did it transition to a real business? And then there's another transition that happened a little more recently that said, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on.
Yeah. Well, so once I saw that that I'm getting some track, people are coming. So I then at that time we had we live in 2-bedroom house with kids sleeping on one side, and then my wife and I on the bedroom. I have my computer. And of course, having design, people wanted to see the designs and they want to make or adjustment or stuff. So they wanted to come to my office.
Yeah.
And I say, office? So my wife said, they are not coming into my bedroom. They are not coming to my bedroom. That's for sure. And so let's figure it out because that's a no-no.
Sorry.
And then, of course, having 2 little daughters and having also, customers coming into my house was not ideal, and I didn't like that. So in the beginning, I just had a kind of like a meeting with them in the living room, but we quickly said, no, that's not the. So then on the garage of the house, we transform it. So we just enclose, one side, and with help, people from from my church. We just got in and put a wall up and do the electrical installation, and we put my computer and I made my office, and I have my first 2 employees on that little thing on the garage. So then a friend of mine, Roger, he was the one that says, "Hey, now it's kind of like looking like you're before having the employees and stuff." He said, "It's like you're getting some track. So now it's a real business. So it is time to make things official. So you have to go to Salem and register the business. So you have to do." And then he kind of like started guiding me on what to do next. So this is what you do. Now you get the license with the city. Now you pay $2 for every county that you're gonna be serving, and you get. So he kind of like guide me into that thing. So which I appreciate a lot because I have no clue, no idea.
Right.
Up to back in 2007, when business was growing, I had already my 2 people working on the business, and open opportunity to buy a commercial condo, which I jump into that opportunity, and it's when I have the offices today. So it is that also created a kind of like a different set of leads, right? Because now I'm in a commercial property that is in a commercial area that it has a different traffic, and then it just open up for me other opportunities, for the business. So I was getting now into another league that kind of like make me start kind of like stopping a little bit and setting parameters and setting goals and setting plans and how I'm gonna pay for because what I was paying for the mortgage on that little house is not the same that paying for the mortgage in a commercial property.
Yeah,
it's a lot different. And then all the overhead that comes with that commercial property.
Oh yeah.
But also what I bought was not like a commercial property just ready to go and do business. It was a shell. It was just the walls outside. So we have to build inside every single wall and the ceiling. So we have to do ceiling, we have to do frames, we have to do doors, we have to do everything. It was just a shell, and it was brick. So we have to put sheetrock, and I have to start hiring people to do that and spending a lot of money that I have no idea, no clue that it was going to be that expensive.
Yeah. That's a lot of business cards you got to sell.
Oh, that's everything for me was business cards.
Yeah.
Okay, so how many business cards? That's true. Now that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
So, for example, I needed new computers for the guys. I say, how can I? Okay, so I contacted Dell computers, and I said, okay, how much do I have to pay, monthly, for to lease computers from you guys? And so they gave me the number. For me, everything was translated into business card. How many sets of business cards do I have to sell in order to make that payment? How many business cards I have to sell to make the mortgage payment? How many do I have to sell
Yep.
to come out with the condo fees? Things that I have no idea. So that puts you in a position that you have to make decisions and you have to go for it, because everything is gonna collapse in front of you if you don't take action.
Action. Yeah. Big action.
Big actions.
Because there's no profit still.
Of course not.
No profit.
Of course not.
Not even considering that part of it yet.
Yeah. It was just the dream getting to shape.
Yeah.
But at that point,
So when did you, I know that you did door hangers along with business cards and because you said that earlier, but back to the question about focus. I know more recently, like you still do business cards for us because I think you enjoy it. Like
yes,
it's something it's that flash from the past a little bit, but that's not what you're really focused on now, right? So what are you focused on? And then kind of what do you see in the future there?
Yeah. So, well, right now it's the business has been kind of like a switching. It's been adjusting a little bit. So before we did so many things, we still do for some of our customers, but it's not something that we just go out and sell it. Even if people contact us, we don't do that anymore. So we kind of like start restructuring the business and to start narrow down what we specialize on. And then we specialize on branding. We do logos and brands for companies, and we do websites. That's been the refocus of the company. So this is our core. This is what we do, and we do it. So we do it with integrity, with honesty, and even though when the customers just come and we don't see a good fit, we'll be the first to tell them, you know what, we're not a good fit for you. Because we don't want the people, the businesses or customers to have, the wrong impression. This is not about money. The money comes when you give excellence on service. When you pour out the best of you, you will get that in return. So, and then because my business is not oriented on money, money is just part of the business. It's part of the transaction, but based on the value that we just give out. So now we're just embarking in a new thing. So we based on the experience, because we have worked for big customers. So yeah, we have worked for big global renowned companies around the world. So I've been involved in projects for Nike, for Alaska Airlines, for Labatt, which is one of the largest breweries in the world. Skanska, Intel. And so that gave me, the experience working with Helly Hansen. So working with those companies just gave me the structure and the experience to help now those small companies to go to a next level. And so now
you help them with understanding. What does it take?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, because business owners, they are really good at what they do. That's why they started the business in the first place. Yeah. Without understanding.
Yeah.
That there is a lot. Doing a business is not the same that being a contractor.
No, that's right. So as you know, almost 40 years as a contractor, mostly asphalt paving over those years. I start next week, the first time ever, meeting with somebody to put together a marketing plan. I've never had a marketing plan. Now we've done marketing,
yes,
but it's more just throw money at the wall, see what sticks.
Exactly.
Do this. Someone said this. This seems to be a trend. So we followed the trends. We did looked at data and different things. But this guy has a 12-step process where you fill out forms and you dig deep into your personas, like your ideal customers and some of these other things, which we've done some of already. But finally, in about four to 6 months, we'll have a 2-year plan. Of course, then it's got a revolving door that it needs to be renewed every year. But first time ever, almost 40 years in business. And that's normal for business.
That's normal for
We
business.
go out and pave driveways. We pave parking lots.
Yeah.
We're starting to do city streets and these kinds of things. Well, that has very little to do with marketing. But it has a lot to do with marketing.
Yeah, it
You know,
is.
and we're discovering that to get to our next level, we actually need to understand the deeper concepts of branding. What are people's eyes on? What are they seeing? And will that cause them to pick up the phone or to Google us? You know?
Yeah.
Well, it matters more now than ever.
People have no idea how important it is to understand who you are first, because
It is.
the business, small business, they don't understand that you need to know who you are first.
Yeah.
What you do. So we try to do a lot of things, to wear so many hats at the same time, just to see what sticks. And then, because of course, if you're hungry, there is no bad food.
No, that's right.
Whatever comes to your table, you eat it, right?
Anything for a buck.
Oh, yes. And then, but now when you start understanding who you are, who your values are, what your mission, your vision is, and how you accomplish that vision, which is your mission, having a statement written and memorized, and everybody on the team goes. So if anything comes to the company, comes as an idea, even because there are beautiful ideas, but if it doesn't align with our core values, our mission and our vision, we don't do it. It sounds beautiful.
That's right.
But we don't do it. So that way, keep us focused.
Also, just for those watching that think that's a bunch of baloney, let me tell you, we 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago, we finally, we had core values. We just didn't know what they were. They weren't written down. They weren't on a poster on the wall. They weren't, but now we have them. And I don't sit down in a conversation with anybody within my own company without the poster in the room. Because every conversation, whether it's positive, negative, difficult, a hiring, a firing, I always, during that conversation, point to the core values. And our mission statement's on there. Our niche is on there. There's 7 different things on there that describe what we are. And I use it religiously because for me, it's my North Star. Now, could I rephrase some of those?
Yes.
Maybe a little differently to fit me a little, but we as a leadership team of the company put those together. And you know what? They work. Because they work, until something really obvious comes along, we are using those as our North Star. This is who we are.
And if it's not written,
it has to be written.
If it's not written, it's in the air. So it's up for interpretation.
Yes. And it can't just be a poster on the wall that just stays on the wall. You have to talk about it. Almost every meeting we have, every other meeting, we do a core values highlight, explain deeper what it might mean, anecdotally connect it to something that's already happened, or reward somebody for doing that thing. And, anyway, it's super important.
It's super important because that leaks into the experience of your customers.
Absolutely.
That's another thing. You need to understand who is your customer.
Yes.
If you don't understand who your customer is, you're going to be just throwing darts, in the dark.
Yep, that is.
You have no idea. You are just seeing that, if you hear and scream, that is a customer.
Yep. That's the main reason we're putting together the marketing plan.
Yes, you need to understand.
Of reaching out to customers that are less than ideal for us.
Exactly.
I want to push that line up. Now, we're going to always end up working for some that are less than ideal. But I want to screen them more effectively, and I want the right ones more often.
Yeah. So when you as a company, when you understand who you are, who your values, your mission, your vision, you train your people, your team, that permeates and that leaks into your customers. Because if you, for example, if you don't have your values set as a company with integrity, then your salespeople will go out lying with no repercussions, and then the whole um, opinion of the community about your company. It's about that last experience they had with the sales guy.
Yep.
So if you don't have anything written in that regard, they can be doing whatever. They can be creative, and most of them they are.
They are getting very creative.
They can get very creative. But then it's your point. Said, come back, and let's just analyze the whole thing again.
Yeah.
But then that's key. For example, we don't do a logo. We do a lot of logos for a lot of companies, contractors, and we redesign the logos once they understand who are they and who is their customers. Because now they can see, for example, if your customer, I've been talking, with a lot of contractors, and we've been in the conversation. I say, well, okay, so when you sign the contract with your customer, who is the person who go and sign the contract? Or who is what's the person who decide what color is that wall? Is a male or female? Say, who cares? And it says, you should care.
It matters.
You should care, because if it's a woman making that decision, you need to know how to talk to that woman. You need to know what language to use, what colors to use. For example, I have a customer of mine, which is a roofer, and the color of the company is black and pink. So in the beginning, he wanted to be black and red, and I said, no. If your customer, once he understood and says, if your customer is a woman, why not pink? Because culturally we have, we've been attaching pink to women, and he said, man, but people are gonna be playing jokes with me all the time, and I say, okay, so you have to decide as a company if your customer is a female and you want to talk to them, how, because the logo of the company is not about you, it's about your customers.
That's your customer, yeah.
No, it's about the logo communicates not what you do. The logo communicates the personality,
who you are,
your values, and then it's been a success, because then he started getting a lot of phone calls from women, middle upper class women that wanted to have a company that in their colors and their brand, they communicate that, yes, I'm here to serve you.
They're welcome.
It's been a great success for him. He says, man, that was a good decision. So we don't do logos for a company. If they just come to us and say, hey, can you do just a logo, the cheapest you can? And we don't do it, because it will be a disservice. Because, so then we have to go through the process.
Yeah.
I want you to understand who you are. We call it a strategy session.
Yep.
And then we just dig deep. And it's uncomfortable. So some of them, they sweat. Say, man, no, yes, you have to answer that question for you, not for me.
Yeah.
And then I will take that from you, and then we will create a brand that represents you. Not you, the company. You are part of that big movement that is going to be transforming lives through your roofer, or through your paving, or through your painting. You're going to be transforming, just bringing, a new opportunity for people to meet you and had that great experience. But if you don't know who that customer is, how are you going to talk to them? Where are you going to find them? Where they hang out? How they dress?
True.
What products they buy? Because that's what gives you the clues.
You mentioned earlier your friends from church helping you with that first office at your little house in the garage there. So tell me a little bit about your faith journey. When did you grow up as an atheist?
Yes.
So there was a transition there. So what about this transition?
That transition it changed my life, because I was raised as an atheist. And then I didn't believe on anything. There are some people that have some, I don't know if it's an advantage, but there are people that believe on something. I didn't believe on anything, because they robbed that from me. They just, put ideas in my mind just to disconnect me, with the Creator. So the problem was that I was a very avid, researcher of science. In my country, I compete on physics. So for me, everything has to be proved, and I have to touch. I have to see things.
Mm-hmm.
If it's real, I have to have evidence. So it's not like you're gonna come and say, yeah, no, no. You have to prove me that is real. So my grandpa, he was Christian, in and then of course, me living because he lived with us. So we live in a house with my both grandparents from my mom's side, my dad, and my two sisters, and my mom and I. So growing up, he always talked about God, talking about Jesus Christ as a savior, and for me that was I was absent. I didn't want to hear anything about it. My dad told me respect. So you have to respect, your grandpa. So you cannot argue with him. You can do that, in a friendly way, asking questions, but that's it. You never offend your grandpa because he has different beliefs than you. So that was really clear. That was a really a rule that I couldn't violate in my life. But when I went to university, the overwhelming necessity on me to save my grandpa from that poison, that it was believing in a God that doesn't exist. That was my belief at the time. How can you believe in a God that doesn't exist? And how can you believe that Jesus Christ? So for me, that was a challenge. And that was one of the things that I want to save my grandpa from that. So in order to do that, I have to prove him wrong. Because every time that I go and talk to him and try to say something to him, he pointed to the Bible. He says, okay, let's see what the Bible says. I said, but I don't believe in the Bible. I said, why you don't believe in the Bible? There is no other book like this. There is no other book in the entire history, with so many authors all writing at different eras, different backgrounds, and writing about something that is all perfectly aligned. But also, you see the evidence on life. So Christ just divided the history of the world in two, before him and after him. How come a guy that the people, they didn't want it, they kill him? How come become such an icon? Oh, okay. Just if I were you, I would start looking for some information. That's what he said. If I were you, I would start digging a little bit deeper and then come back to me, because I will always point to this. This has been proven that is the truth. So what is your truth? So bring it to me. So I started digging deep and went to there was a library that was the only one in the country that has a lot of information about that. It was in Havana. So I just went into that library and started eating books about science and religion and Christianity and things. So, and every time I remember reading a book of Josh McDowell. It was evidence that the man verdict. Yeah. So that was kind of like shake me, because it pointed to places in the Bible that talks about science, and then for me it was all about science, and just going back to dig and find the truth, then I have to go back to the Bible then, because if I'm gonna talk about the Bible, I need to know what it says, what it says and where. So I have to start digging and reading, and from that came the conviction. It was not a voluntary action. I was forced because of my competitive and my drive or my good intentions to get my grandpa out of that, because and then it ended up being surrendered, by the overwhelming evidence. Just on that's on the not on the spiritual level. It was on the physical level. So for me, was the evidence were overwhelming. So now I just have to give a step of faith, and I say, okay, because you don't become from atheist to believer just in just 1 second. It is a decision. It's like love.
So once that decision was firm, it took a while, but once it was firm, we call that conversion or salvation experience, right? Was that part of what drove you to say, I can't live the lie that is Cuba, that is this regime, and then I have to get out? Is that part of that?
Actually, now that you mention it, it is exactly that.
Okay.
Because that is a total.
The Bible teaches liberty and it teaches freedom. It teaches yes, there's constraints to
and
it.
truth and integrity, and you are exactly right. Because I just became I remember going to a church, and of course this church. We went to those town city carnivals.
Okay, yeah.
We were to drink and to have party, and I remember walking with my wife, and I told her just by kind of like in a despective way. Oh yeah, you see that is the place where my grandparents they congregate, and she was the one that says, "Oh really? And are they there now?" I say, "Yeah." Oh, let's just look at it through the window.
So she did. So she had a sense of curiosity.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So and then just point it out and say, "You see, that's my grandpa. Look at that. That's my grandpa." See, let's just go inside, just for a second. We just walk away. Let's go. So I remember that day just listening, and then the whole thing was cooking already. And then we just went in, and then the pastor was giving a message, and then we just I remember that he asked for does anybody here want to accept? And for me that question was like I accept Jesus as my savior, but I was not I accepted, but I was not convicted. I accepted. But from that to the later conversion,
so for you there was a difference.
Yeah, for me was a difference. Yeah, I accepted that day. Okay, yeah, I want to accept him into my life. Now the evidence are so overwhelming that I have no other choice to accept him.
So it's more cerebral.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was more physical for me.
Yeah.
And then it started the spiritual.
So once you accept him, he's on you.
Exactly.
He attaches, right?
And
then he, especially if you're spending time in Scripture, that he just won't leave you alone in a super loving, graceful, merciful way. Yeah. So, well, thank God that's 25 years ago or so, right?
Yeah, 25 years ago.
Yeah,
around that, 25, 26 years ago. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, that is great. So I have a couple more questions to kind of bring this to an end, but I want to reveal something to the audience so you have a couple grandkids, right?
I have three grandkids.
You have 3 grandkids.
I have 3 grandkids.
Can you tell me about these grandkids?
Oh, yeah. So I have 3 granddaughters.
3 granddaughters.
3 little princes that is, the apple of my eyes. I love them. I never expected the love for grandkids could be this way. I never expected anything that is compared to the love that I have for my kids until those grandkids came along. And now I can see my kids, reflecting on the way they behave. And now with a different experience in life, now I know what I did wrong, what I could do. Well, not wrong, but sometimes
could have done better.
Could have done better. Never better say than that. Yeah. And then now it's a kind of like a new opportunity, to embrace this opportunity, this privilege,
to redeem
to enhance the experience.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so those 3 grandkids come from my oldest daughter, that he happens to be married to
my son.
to your son.
So we share those wonderful three
Yes.
amongst the multiples of mine, but you have 3 and I have 17
I,
grandkids.
I'm working on that. I'm
But-
just trying to persuade my kids to
Yeah,
compete
to
because,
compete,
the
yeah.
competitive mind. Yeah.
It's hard for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
17.
Yes.
Good.
So we have those 3 in common. And
Yes.
I want to tell you that when I hear that the kids are with you, there's not an ounce of jealousy, there's pride, there's an appreciation for your story and really the values that, like, you're going to share that stuff with them. And the fact that we're trying to redeem the things we could have done better and do it better the next time around, I trust you completely.
Thank you.
So when I know, of course I want them with me all the time, but when I know they're with you, I know they're in good hands. I know that you're
Thank you.
treating them well, and that they're hungry for a legacy and they don't even know it yet.
Yes.
But they're feeding on it from both of us, from both sides. And then, of course, the culture that's around you, a lot of it Hispanic, Cuban, it's different than mine. But that also creates a fullness in them that I'm very proud that they get to experience.
Actually, yes, and same here, and I'm giving to you like in complete honesty. So, and they tell me stories. Oh, so they just come home and say, "Oh, yes, I just came to from Grandpa's, from Papa. They call you Papa. The guy we just went to Papa's house, and then and I asked him, okay, so what happened? Tell me what he did to you." And we kind of like because we know for sure that we share the same values.
Yeah,
Share the same values. We share the same faith, and that's so important. We don't impose anything into our kids and grandkids. We just teach them with example.
Absolutely.
That's the best teacher that you can ever have.
Yeah.
You're teaching with example, and that's one of the things that I got from my grandpa. He taught me with his testimony. There was no blemish. You cannot say anything against that man of integrity. Then I have on the other side, I have my dad, which was another honest, integral individual. But because he was involved, with the politics and the government, he could not express himself, which now he lives in the States with me, close to me.
And now he loves Jesus too.
Oh, yeah. And
he's fully converted.
Yes.
Fully in the boat.
Yeah, so the whole thing started aligning and everybody's enjoying now the same values, the same faith, the same... so our conversations, our time together is totally different. It's a peaceful, wonderful time, together. Yeah.
So you've seen a lot of challenges, and you would probably, if we both wrote a list of our 5 biggest challenges, some of them would probably even match.
Oh yeah.
Business, it's employees,  if it's customers,
Yeah, the list is...
yeah. Okay, so there's a list. If we both wrote down 5, some of them would match, some of them wouldn't. But as we talk about starting where we both started, which was small, insignificant, with nothing. It's part of my story too. I started with nothing. Had to borrow, and anything I could do, get my hands on things,
and travel,
and do all the things that wouldn't necessarily want to volunteer for now. So my last question for you is: there's people right now that might watch this that are in a difficult spot, or perhaps in what they consider a small spot, and yet they have visions of greater, but really greatness. Let me read a phrase I heard the other day. Is that it ties greatness with faith. It says, greatness is a form of worship. I believe with everything in me, and I think you do too, that God put us on this earth to not be average. What would be the point of that? Well, to not be good, because there's a lot of good people, good things, but what about great?
Hmm.
How many of those people do we see? And how many of those people are turning that round and saying, glory to God? We kind of have that piece to our mission, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So what would you say to that person that is sitting in a spot where it's like, I'm meeting with one later today that is struggling right now.
Hmm.
I have to
Well,
pass your advice to him, perhaps.
yes. If you use this, the opportunity that you have, and if you use the struggling that you're having today or the position that you are today, if you allow the conditions or the situations happening in your life to crush you, they will.
Mm.
They will. But if you use it to step on top of that, to climb the other step towards greatness, then you will enjoy the journey. Because then I could have said, well, you know what? I was born here in this island. It is illegal to go out. This is it. Let me just play the game with the government and just scale, just serve and humiliate my people and being part of the machinery that is enslave my country. Or I just use that as an incentive to move to to go to a different step. Then Christ came into my life and gave me a set of tools that you can never imagine that you can have. And just to keep it simple, yeah, I've been always, let's say that I've been a carpenter all my life, and I have, a handsaw, I have a hammer, and but now when I met Jesus Christ, he gave me an electrical saw. He gave me, pneumatic hammers. Now I don't have to do a bunch of hammer down a nail. Now I just put 5 in a couple seconds. So it gave me another set of tools so I can just achieve things that I never thought possible. But most of all, it gave me the framework, gave me the structure where I can just base my life and just start stepping, one after the other one. And it will always bring you to greatness because it will transform your life in a way that you will never expect it to be transformed. Especially your internal life is going to be switched because now it's not about you. It's about him. So then it will start moving you towards giving the glory where it belongs.
Where it belongs, yeah. To the one that earned it.
Yeah, so these times it will be just a moment on the past that you will remember, but you will not suffer it. You will remember, there was many things that I didn't like in my past, but I don't remember with sadness. I remember with gratefulness because that made me who I am today. And that prepares me for who I'm going to be tomorrow. Yeah. So it's, for me, that person having that struggle, you need to come to terms on your own with yourself first and say, okay, I need to accept that I've been doing something that is not right. Or I've been doing this wrong because of culturally or experience.
Yeah, and it may not even be moral. It may just be not enough.
Not enough.
Or maybe it's too much, too deep in the details when you're not being perhaps the business owner you need to be in.
You have to go back and see the big picture and see where you're going to go, make a plan, write it down, and go for it. But never, without God, nothing we can do.
No.
You can. And then you have people that they claim to be very successful. And that's why you see so many, celebrities sadly committing suicide
Yeah.
People that have gained fame and money,
Divorcing.
divorcing, and life being upside down.
Yeah.
So then you say, well, it's not about material things. It's not about money. It's about greatness. It's about greatness.
True greatness.
True greatness.
Defined by the one that made it, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
I think
It's not about you.
No, it's not about
It's not about me.
I think that's a great place to end, because it's like the mic drop. Greatness is important. We should drive for it. But his version is the right one. Yeah?
I love that.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on to these fledgling, brand new podcasts that I'm putting together. And
I love it.
I'm so glad you came on, Eduardo, and we'll just continue to love those grandkids and everything, right?
For sure.
Good.
Count on that.
And strive for greatness.
Strive for greatness.
All right.